I want to make sure we get a few joyful things in here as well.
I mean, for me, all of it's joyful. It's not. I don't know about you. I don't feel bad having this conversation. This is what made me want it. Yeah. You know, it's everybody to carry Emmett's legacy forward. She didn't want to be the only one who was talking about Emmett, and this is the opportunity to be not the only one talking about Emmett.
You know what?
So, it's a joy in that. Joy isn't always, quote unquote, the happiness. Joy isn't always this smiley thing. Joy is the intent being driven forward in the way that community seeks.
First of all, my name is Jacqueline Coley. I'm the awards editor at Rotten Tomatoes. It's my honor to welcome to the stage two of the cast members from this incredible film, Danielle Deadwyler and Jalyn Hall. In a room full of actors, that is an incredible reception. Thank you all so very much. Let's have a seat. That is an incredible reception, but this is an incredible film. So
squad. Actors.
I mean, seriously,
squad.
I do love being back here at SAG-AFTRA because I will say, in a room full of actors, you can always feel it when they've just witnessed what two actors did on stage in a complete, you know, giving of themselves to a part, to a story that we all know, but has been told for the first time in this way. So Danielle, I'll start with you because as a Black woman living in America, and I'll remind everyone, if you have any questions, there are question cards over there that you can fill out and I will add them to my list. Otherwise, I'm very capable of doing it on my own. But I want to say, as a Black woman, the story of Emmett Till and the story of Niecy, it's something we've all thought of. It's something that we've heard. It's something that has been a part of the consciousness for a long time now. But stepping into that role is an entirely different thing and something that I know you would have to contemplate. So talk about those first conversations with Chione and then also the family, because I know they were very much involved in this process from the beginning.
Oh, those first conversations with Chinoya. Okay, so I'll start at the top. I saw the script. It came in. I was actually working on from scratch. I had just started.
But yeah, let's give it up for from scratch, though. Can we, though?
I didn't mean to start enough. Y'all, wait a minute. Hold up. So I'm working on from scratch. I'm just starting, and they send the script, and I said, I can't deal with this yet. And so it took a week. I read the first third. I took 2 days. I'm looking for an apartment. I read the second third. I finally found an apartment and I settled in, and I read the last third, and then I had to really mull over even more. And the reps were like, hey, if you want to, you can still submit by Monday. And so traditional route, self-tape, sent it in. And then they dared me to have a director session. And I said,
wait, they dared you?
They dared me. They send you, they're like, can you do this? And I'm like, yeah. But that scene was for the funeral home scene where she witnesses the body for the first time. And so this is a story I've told before where I told my son, who was sitting in the room, the like living space area, on his computer playing Fortnite, living his good little 11-year-old life. And I say, hey man, I'm going to go in here, because I go in the closet, to do this audition, this callback. If you hear something, don't worry, it's all good. And he said, okay. And I go in, I do my thing, and my sister comes home because she's staying with us and helping, and they hear a wail and they look at each other like, what was that? And he goes, Mommy said she's in an audition, it's all good.
That sounds like something you tell the cops. Like, let's be real.
It's all good. And then a few minutes later, I come out like, hey, y'all want to go get something to eat? And that's the entree into dealing with Till. And we really hashed through that session. That session was probably, 90 minutes or so. And so that's the experience of dealing with Till in totality, of digging fully and completely into every crevice of everything. This was the most community-driven, hyper collaborative effort in all the ways, in acquiring the information, in knowing the roots of it, in talking with Keith Beauchamp. That's who I mainly communicated with, because he was the mentee to Mamie. In reading the book, using The Death of Innocence, that was written by Mamie and Christopher Benson as Bible, because she delved truly and deeply into every quality of their history, from her childhood to the movement of her into her activism and into education and the arts. A host of archival footage and photos, all of the conversations. I don't know, I didn't necessarily talk to as many people as maybe you guys did, but Jamie Lawson had the opportunity to talk to Murley Evers as well as Tosin, and Sean Patrick Thomas was able to talk to the Mobley family. Like, that was everybody's purpose, to be fully and completely care driven, radically and critically care driven, and loving to each other and taking care of each other through this entirely. So yeah.
And I do apologize. I said, this is what's so crazy. I was thinking of Niecy Nash and When They See Us, because that is another mother going through this, and my brain just went there. But like, this is the deal. Unfortunately, there's so many examples of this performance of a mother in grief.
Right. That's the fear, right? Do you really want to do that? Do you want to go through that? What's the difference in this? I think that was my question. Why do we witness Black women having this particular kind of wail, or why do mothers have to have this kind of wail?
And that's the question I wanted to ask you, is in approaching that, was that part of, I do feel like with a project like this and a career like what you've had and what you've done, there was a bit of yourself you had to go to after the audition to accept this role, because you're stepping into history, literally, and it is heavy. There's a few actors that can feel the pain that you've gone through that. Maybe Denzel playing Malcolm, maybe, these very key roles in our history, but this is a very lonely endeavor to embark upon.
It is. It is deeply. Everybody, like, I let people know that I'm a mother of a burgeoning 13-year-old, but at the end of the day, this is just a daily occurrence. Sometimes we hear about them, sometimes not. And that's enough for me. I'm from Atlanta. I know about the civil rights legacy. I was a volunteer intern with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference when I was a kid. So were all of my siblings. I went to Cascade United Methodist Church. These are the places where Reverend Dr. Joseph Lowry was a pastor and collaborated with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King with the SCLC. And I worked with unsung Black women in the basement of that organization to learn, which was a kind of radicalism and the origins of my activism. And those people were impacted by what Mamie did and were interfacing with her at that time, unbeknownst to me. So it's like, that's in the DNA of who I am. And that's all that I really needed, right? I do know this maternal experience personally, but I had to go home to him every day. He still wants to eat all the time, and he still wants to tell me about his day, and I have to be present for that. And I don't, the conjuring of other things is a different kind of wreckage that I don't know. I don't really remember if I used, to be honest.
I want to talk about the beautiful ray of light that was your son on screen, Mr. Jalyn Hall, and his performance.
On screen and off, man.
Yeah.
This is my guy.
This is like not a real moderator question, but I feel like I have to put it out there. How old were you when you did this?
I was 14. Yeah.
Oh.
It's unfortunately the same age as Emmett.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is just really tragic in that. But I was really just trying to give you shine because your age just shocked this room of actors because what you were able to do.
He lying. He 32, y'all. He told us in Chicago. Was it Chicago?
It was everywhere. It was Chicago,
He's everywhere.
New York.
He said he's 32.
And what's so crazy is it's there from that first scene when you're singing in the car. In that moment, it's there. And in that moment, an entire relationship lays bare. And it's all in your smile. And I, again, at the tender age of 14, I don't know where that came from on the day or where it was, but it was just the two of you in the car. Talk about that scene, because as we get into the other sides of it, it's that scene that makes those more tragic. And also that's the harder scene, I think, to play. Just the familiarity of mother and son.
Right. So a lot of the questions that I get asked are like, we get asked, how much time did you guys have together to, vibe and, communicate? And the answer is none. We had our the scene you see at the top of the movie was one of my audition tapes and our chemistry read. And
yeah, no, I taught him how to sing.
Needless to say, I could not sing the song.
Are you talking about my teaching ability? Is this the dig?
No, but that that moment just made it better. It was so authentic, and a lot of times when you go into auditions, they can feel like auditions, or you can feel like you're trying to retain information or notes. But with her, it was an amazing experience. I felt like I was just, I was in an audition, sure, but it just felt so natural, and the vibe was amazing. And then
tell them what you said.
No, you have the better recollection.
Wait, no, actually, no. I'm gonna do what Mama says. Do what Mama says. Do what Mama says. As the moderator,
I don't even remember.
Oh.
Stop lying and tell him what you said.
You tell him. I don't.
Jalen went through the whole audition. He was listening. We were singing. He should have beeped when he should have bopped. And then he comes to the close of the audition, and he has the audacity to say, "Miss Danielle, I just want to say you have a beautiful smile."
Shine.
I was being so sincere.
You better stop. But he did. I mean, it was just an indication of how joyful and beautiful and like
charming.
Wonderful he is.
Yeah,
how he
charming.
has that particular, what's the, as we call it, black boy joy, which was indicative of Emmett, and you just couldn't do anything but love him.
Yeah. And actually, yes, thank you for that. Thank you so much for that. Because that's the part that's the most tragic. He's just as beautiful, guileless in some of the most tragic ways, right? But there is a moment, Jalyn, later where the severity of the situation finally hits Emmett. And that's not a scene that we definitely talk about when we talk about the film as much, but it's definitely a moment that we all envision happen. There was a moment when this changed for him from what it was to what it ended up being. How is it for that one? Because it's a strange moment. We never see the brutality on his face. We never see that, but we do see him realize the severity, and it's a wordless moment. How is that?
And
for
you're
you?
referring to
the scene where they come to get him, and he's like putting on his shoes, and they're like, "No, you don't know where you're going in this moment."
Yeah. I feel like, in my life, speaking through personal experience and things that I know my friends have went through, when certain things happen, or like childish example, say you broke a vase or something, you managed to get away with it, thinking that there would not be any repercussions, but unfortunately in this story it wasn't just breaking a vase. And I feel like in that scene, that one was kind of the hardest for me. I went every day with, I wouldn't read over each day. I'd read ahead, lines wise, maybe once or twice, but I always wanted it to be fresh, because if you look at it in retrospect, he had no idea what the next day was going to be like. He had no idea what would befall him. So that one was kind of hard for me. I needed help to get through it. My mom was there on set with me. My mom's in the back, actually.
Shout out to moms.
Yeah. Where's she at? Oh, there she is.
Is she over there recording? There she is.
Yeah, that's my mama.
Real OG right there. Real OG.
But yeah, so she was there. She was there with me, and I needed I genuinely stopped the scene. I was like, "Can I take a minute?" Because I needed a hug, because it was to be able to need the person, only while I'm filming it. Imagine how he felt to need the person, when he was actually living it, and he couldn't get to her, and she couldn't get to him. So that scene was kind of a hard realization for me. So when they kicked it off with the abduction, it was like, it was in that moment, yearning to be helped but couldn't receive it. So that for me, yeah, that was the turning point to where you see that, things that you feel, it'll be all right. Nobody said anything about it. And then you see when it actually happens that initial pain.
Yeah, and that was the moment like that really, again, you go into a movie like this a bit on edge in a way because you're worried about what you will see, but I really do respect the way that this film handles so much of that. But it is a tragic tale, and these are real life people, but in a way they've almost become legend. They've almost become like a fable because of what they've become, but they have to be real to you as actors to play them. So Danielle, when did Mamie become a person you could live in as opposed to what you saw on the page? And like, when did it become real in your performance? When did that sort of like switch hit? Because I know with actors, it depends. Sometimes it's costumes, sometimes it's a line, but it changes.
It does. It's twofold for me. When I finished the book, I had a full breadth of understanding. Because you you have to understand how the birth went. How freaking influential he was in helpful of their domestic dynamic, how he was reliable and how he would cook, how they would cook together. All of that stuff paints a full body picture. And then there were the times when I was working with Marcy Rogers, our department head in wardrobe, and she is utterly, everybody was utterly meticulous in crafting every department, but I would come into the wardrobe department and she would have images that I had not seen, and she was down to the T with texture, with color, with everything. And so when I would step into a dress, I'm just a little ragtag thug. I wear t-shirts and sweats or, workout tights. And she would put me in stuff, and it just changes your whole dynamic. There's a discipline and a rigor to the kind of beauty that 1955 entailed, especially for a Black woman of Chicago. And so when certain dresses would be put on, I would prance or I would dance around, and Marcy said, "Oh, if she dances, she likes it. If she doesn't dance, then let's just get it out of here." So those kinds of things, it was physical and deeply emotional to find the truth of living in this world.
If there are any gods in this world, please, MGM, get a copy of that and put it on TikTok of you prancing in this costume, because I would
There are.
Okay,
Ask Marcy.
All right. We're on it. Internet sleuths. Please make it happen. Jalyn, same thing for you. Because again, even more so with Emmett, because he was cut so tragically short, the picture we have of him is limited, even from everything that Mamie wrote. How was it for you? When did he become real? When did he stop being this thing that you had maybe heard about? Or had you heard about him before?
Right. So I had heard about, the story before, but not in such detail and in depth and in light and color that I do now. Just the cautionary tale that was told to me as a means to prevent anything like that from happening to me, having that awareness, which is sadly common, in a lot of families. But for me, I would say that we weren't unalike, so a lot of the people had a lot of our actors, our peers, did their own process in embodying these people, these human beings. And for me, it was learning and educating myself on, personality traits and such like that. But with giving a representation of a 14-year-old boy who had a great relationship with his mom, curiosity, joy, that was easy for me because I was living it simultaneously. So a lot of my personal experience got to shine through with keeping, the esque that was only in a picture or only on a page, but bringing it to life. So I would say from the first fitting, and she wasn't lying. Those clothes, they really put you in the mindset. From the first fitting, I put on everything and I looked in the mirror and I was just like, wow. And my mom looked at me and she was like, wow. And in that moment, that's when we, both stepped into this.
I'm so glad you said that too, because the costumes, the craftsmen that are a part of this, you really do feel like you're taking a trip back into the mid-century Black experience for so many people. And you had a great, not only actor and actress, but film historian alongside of you in Whoopi Goldberg, who was also a huge, yes, we will give applause to to the EGOT, to the GOAT in so many ways. You had her on this journey with you, and she was a huge proponent in this film getting made. But that's still two actors walking on set with Whoopi Goldberg, which is not something that happens too often these days, despite her incredible pedigree. So what was that like for you, Danielle? Because we've all seen The Color Purple. Let's keep it real.
Exactly. Whoopi was everything that she was to this film beforehand. Someone who sought to be deeply loyal and patient with it, to ride with something for 12 years after somebody else is already riding with it for 20 years after the originator of this film, which is truly Mamie, wanted it done in 1955 for her to join in that capacity and to fight for it. That's the same way she acts as an actor. That's the same way she acts as a producer. And yet she is a jokester, supreme. Yes. She is full of levity. She is supremely like Alma in that she is a grandmother, in that she is a mother, that she is caring in the way that everybody sought to care for this film. So, I love Whoopi.
Yeah. All right, Jalyn, what about you? What was it like? Because y'all have some cute scenes. Yeah,
together. When I got to meet her, it was like, wow, that's Whoopi Goldberg, I was just in awe. But when I got to talk to her, like she said, she's a jokester, and me, myself, I feel like when going on sets, especially with, legendary actors, because in my career, pretty much everybody's older than me when I go on the sets. So it's like, you don't want to be, too outlet. You got to keep it small, but she marked the territory of like a very welcoming and warm person. And I was super excited to meet her, but not as excited as my mom. Can I tell the story?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Embarrass your mother.
Okay, so my mom goes with me everywhere I go, right? Not out of necessity. I'm just like, Mom, Mom, I got it. But she's my guardian angel. So we get on set. And my mom's like, that's Whoopi Goldberg. I'm like, yeah, she's over there. And by this time, I had already got to talk to her and see how nice and warm she is. And she was like, oh my God. And I was like, she like 2 feet away from you. You could just, walk over and say hi. But she didn't want to. And I was like, hey, this is my mom. And she bowed. And she bowed. But it was so pure. It wasn't even like, and then
I would bow to Whoopi Goldberg too, though. Like,
and
legit.
then Whoopi laughed, and they had a good talk, and it was just a great moment,
Oh, no, you can tell that moment anytime, because again, I know they probably don't have a video. The video though would just be so great to see, because like again, if Whoopi walked in right now, we would all bow, because that's what she wants to do. We have all bowed to what we saw you all do in this piece, and I will say this, I'm like waiting to the end of this, because it's like, I know this is a hard movie to do press for. I know this is a hard movie to talk about. And so I don't want to shortchange the brilliance of what you've done, but I also don't want to make y'all go through that again, because it was rough. And then is still deathly handled. But I will talk about the glass casket and that moment, because you've already talked about the whale, and that is such a key moment of this. But I want to, before we get out of here, talk about that moment, because it's more subtle and it's more silent, but it is really where I think Mamie finds herself, even more so than when she first sees the body.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's this is the balance of the public and private nature of the labor that she performs, that Black women perform. And this is one of those moments where the shift of how she's caring for his legacy changes, the shift of how her understanding of what her mothering is, or the value of mothering beyond blood and beyond quote unquote family, because she says, I'm you're not just my beau anymore. And if beau isn't just, you aren't just my beau, then I'm not just your mom anymore. This is the choice to become mother, not just to one, but to thousands. Like, she has a quote that lingers in that root understanding. And so it also is the moment where someone else has a visceral reaction. And I remember doing that scene. I remember it well because the woman who played Auntie Lizzie was she's a beautiful woman, and she has, she's a mother of 4, and it hit her that way. It was one of those, it was a time where I had to, support her in the same way that Mamie was like, you have to look, you have to feel, you have to understand that. And we walked her to the back after like one of the takes, and I said, you got to eat, you got to drink, you got to bring yourself back in case you have to do it again.
Just again, yeah. You have to do it multiple times.
In case you have to do it again. And that's the beauty of the community, right? And Chinoya and all of the producers. It wasn't about the overexhaustion of anyone, let alone crew, because Bobby Bukowski, our DP, he was crying every other day. And it would mess me up. It was that kind of a set, and yet we stopped for each other. We looked at each other. We made space for each other to have those kinds of moments. And I don't even think she had to do it again, or maybe one more time. But recovering, allowing ourselves to offer each other recovery in that way was integral. And so, in that act, that is what Mamie did. It is beyond just me now. It is beyond the personal. It is the personal to the political to the global society, and that's the kind of act that has sat with me.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning that, because you're right. She does go to that moment in there. Mm-hmm. I still, to this though, picturing you over that glass with your hand is like an indelible moment for me in this film, and the moment that I want the film to be defined for, along with her speech, because your speech at the end is another moment. But we only have a couple minutes left, so I want to make sure we get a few joyful things in here as well.
For me, all of it's joyful. It's not. I don't know about you. I don't feel bad having this conversation. This is what made me want it. It's everybody to carry Emmett's legacy forward. She didn't want to be the only one who was talking about Emmett. And this is the opportunity to be not the only one talking about Emmett.
You know what?
So, it's a joy in that. Joy isn't always, quote unquote, the happiness. Joy isn't always this smiley thing. Joy is the intent being driven forward in the way that community seeks. Yeah.
I just want to add, that's the difference between living in a movie and just seeing it, because you have to live in the movie to be able to see it that way. Thank you for that so much. I still want to ask this question because I do think it's a beautiful bookend to the film, and that is the missing passenger from The Passenger in the end shot, when we do the shot with the driving, but when we have the missing passenger, that shot, which I think is an interesting visual bit of storytelling that we put in this one. But for you, Jalyn, watching your sort of, I would say, disappearing act in the film as an actor is very interesting, because you leave the film, obviously, in a certain point and in the narrative, but you are still so much a part of it. And there's these little glimpses throughout of it. And I think it's an interesting sort of experiment within, as an actor, to sort of play this out in chapters. I want to talk about how you felt. You guys were in New York, you guys have taken the film around, watching the film back, and how you felt about it.
Each time was just, it was enlightening, and it really impacted. Well, the first time I seen it, I was filming a project in New Orleans, and I seen it by myself. Well, not by myself. It was with me, like two of my other castmates, my mom and their parents, and it was just us. And we watched it, and everybody. Oh, and our producer and director. So we were watching it, and we're just soaking it up, and it's so crazy, and it really moved us. And then we start the tour, and we see it around the world with different people from different cultures, and it's so different, to see their reaction. And I'm feeling changed in so many ways. A lot of people are scared and have that sort of hesitance to view this because of what it might do to them. But with me living through it for a short period of time and seeing it as many times as I have, and being the age that I am, and feeling enlightened with not only knowledge but inspiration, I feel like it's something that you can't be told, you can't listen to, you have to, like you said, live in it. And that's the invitation to everyone to come live in this and continue to.
See,
that's the word.
You can't help but love him.
That's the word. And that is also all the time we have. I will just say this. If you guys could please hold one moment just so we can get these out, because these lovely folks have to take off and they're going to another Q&A. But I want to thank SAG-AFTRA. I want to thank all of you. And I want to thank Danielle and Jalyn for being here.
Thank
if
you
guys
very
could just
much.
hold your seats real quick, we're going
Thank
to
you.
try and get them out of here.